You're tending to your crops on a quiet morning when a distant sound interrupts the routine. Hoofbeats. Faint at first, then multiplying. Mongol scouts, riding hard, can cover up to 120 kilometers in a single day, and their sudden arrival signals more than just another raid. You see a line of horsemen crest the horizon, banners snapping in the wind, each movement precise and practiced. This is the force that built the largest contiguous empire in history, one that outnumbered and outmaneuvered every enemy in its path. Do you run, or do you hide? The Mongols are known for their speed, discipline, and a reputation for terror that makes even the bravest hesitate. Stay, and you'll learn why survival against them was almost impossible. Life in the village begins, as always, with the rising sun. The world is quiet, almost too quiet. In these early hours, the village moves with practiced routine. A few women draw water from the well, and children's laughter drifts near the stream. Men gather at the field's edge, tools in hand, ready for another day's work. Yet beneath this normalcy, something feels unsettled. The calm is interrupted when a child, playing near the fields, spots a group of horsemen on the horizon. They do not approach, nor do they shout warnings. They watch in silence, unmoving. These are not lost travelers or passing merchants. These are Mongol scouts, agents who precede the main army, gathering intelligence and sowing confusion. Their discipline is clear. They ride in tight, screened columns, surveying every farm, every storehouse, every escape route. Their presence is a message in itself. Mongol scouts operated far ahead of the main force, sometimes more than 100 kilometers out. Disguised as merchants or priests, they infiltrated villages and towns, noting population numbers and the mood of the people. They looked for signs of dissent, weak points and defenses, and the best routes for the main army. Each rider swapped mounts midday, letting scouts cover up to 120 kilometers in a single push, leaving no time for alarms. Their mobility made them almost impossible to track, and their sudden appearances unsettled even the most prepared settlements. The effect was immediate and psychological. A single glimpse of these riders was enough to stir anxiety. Rumors spread faster than the scouts themselves, whispering of entire towns vanishing overnight, of survivors fleeing only to be overtaken on the plains. The Mongols cultivated this fear deliberately, using it as a weapon to weaken resistance before a battle even began. Inside the village, fear spreads quickly. A single sighting turns into hushed conversations at the gates, anxious glances exchanged over morning chores, and children pulled indoors without explanation. The ripple of unease moves from elders to parents to children, breaking routines and replacing them with uncertainty. People debate whether to hide, fortify, or flee, but every option seems futile. The scouts have already marked the roads and watched the trails. Escape routes are known before anyone tries to use them. There is no warning from neighboring settlements, no chance to send for help. The Mongols' intelligence network is thorough. Spies and scouts have already mapped the region, identified stores of food and water, and measured the strength of any walls. The villagers sense, even if they cannot articulate it, that their defenses are meaningless against such preparation. By late morning, the scouts have vanished. Their absence is as unsettling as their arrival. The silence that follows feels heavy, as if the village is being watched by unseen eyes. People abandon their work and gather in small groups, waiting for something to happen. The knowledge settles in. The Mongols do not attack blindly. Every move is calculated, every delay intentional, designed to keep the village on edge. This is the calm before the storm, a moment stretched thin by dread and uncertainty. The villagers scan the horizon, knowing the first sign of the main force will bring a violence they cannot imagine. The Mongols have set the stage, and now the village waits, caught in the grip of fear. The air itself feels charged, as if holding its breath for what comes next. Then, with no further warning, the atmosphere shifts. The tension builds, and the villagers sense that the true assault is about to begin. The first arrow lands almost without warning, slicing through the morning air. In an instant, the sky fills with a dense, relentless barrage. Thousands of arrows launched in coordinated waves. The noise is constant, a sharp whistling above and the dull thud of impact below. There is no time to process what's happening. Defenders duck behind shields or scatter for cover, but the arrows come in too fast. Too many, falling into every open space, every gap in the defenses. The Mongol arrow storm has begun. This was not random violence. It was a calculated tactic, perfected to break the will and formation of any force in its path. Mongol horse archers, trained from childhood, positioned themselves at a distance, often 200 to 300 yards, where their composite bows could strike with both power and accuracy. They did not aim for individuals, instead, they targeted a killing zone, saturating it with arrows until no organized resistance remained. The goal was to disrupt, to sow confusion, and to make any attempt at defense feel pointless. The Mongols' composite bows were essential to this strategy. Built from horn, wood, and sinew, these compact weapons fired arrows with enough force to pierce armor at a long range. At close distances, within 40 meters, their shots became even deadlier. The defenders' shields and walls provided little comfort against such firepower. Each new volley sent lines scattering, and as soon as anyone tried to regroup, another wave followed. The discipline behind these attacks was remarkable. The Mongols organized their archers into jaguns, units of 100 men. 80 would rotate through the front lines, while 20 held back as reserves or heavy cavalry. The tactic known as the karakol kept the assault constant. Waves of 10 to 20 horse archers would ride forward, loose their arrows, then wheel away to reload as the next group surged ahead. This cycling ensured that there was never a lull in the barrage. Each man carried up to 60 arrows, and with fresh horses swapped regularly, the attack could last an hour or more without pause. For those inside the village, the effect was immediate and overwhelming. Wooden gates splintered, hastily built barricades fell, and even the strongest walls seemed fragile under the weight of the assault. The arrow storm did not need to destroy every structure to be effective. It only needed to break the defenders' resolve. The constant rain of arrows forced people to cower, unable to return fire or organize a counterattack. The air filled with sounds of panic, shouts, cries, and the steady rhythm of arrows striking home. Historical accounts offer clear examples of the devastation. At the Battle of Huan-Ern-Choi in 1211, Genghis Khan's archers unleashed such a storm that the powerful Qin cavalry broke ranks and retreated in confusion. The Mongol arrow storm did not just inflict casualties, it shattered morale and made further resistance impossible. This method was repeated across countless villages and battlefields, each time with the same result. Inside the village, hope faded quickly. The defenders realized that there was no safe place, no moment to regroup. The Mongols' mobility meant that they could keep just out of reach, always attacking from a distance where retaliation was impossible. The barrage continued until defenders were exhausted, their lines broken, their confidence gone. When the arrows finally slowed, the silence that followed was almost as frightening as the noise that came before. Survivors understood what came next. The storm was not the end, but only the opening act. The Mongols had used their arrows to destroy order and willpower. Now, the next phase would begin. The Lancers would charge, finishing what the arrows had started. For those who managed to survive the arrow storm, a new fear took hold. The knowledge settled in. Escape would not be easy, and the worst was yet to come. You pushed through the trees, desperate for safety, with the chaos of the village fading behind you. The path ahead seems open, almost inviting, but with the Mongols, nothing is left to chance. What appears to be a stroke of luck is actually the final act in a carefully orchestrated plan. A plan built around the tactic that set the Mongols apart, the feigned retreat. The Mongols mastered deception on the battlefield, and the feigned retreat was their signature move. A small Mongol force would engage, then withdraw in apparent disorder. To the defenders, it looked like panic or weakness. In reality, it was a calculated maneuver designed to provoke exactly one response: pursuit. The enemy, convinced of their advantage, abandoned their defenses and gave chase, losing cohesion as they moved into unfamiliar ground. This was not a careless retreat. Mongol generals measured every step, every pause, and every turn, planning the timing and location of their withdrawal with military precision. Historical records, such as the Secret History of the Mongols, describe how Xiu, one of Genghis Khan's trusted commanders, used this tactic against the Chiat. After the initial clash, Xiu's forces pretended to flee, drawing the Chiat soldiers deep into a valley. Once the enemy was fully committed, Mongol reinforcements struck from hidden positions, surrounding and overwhelming the pursuers. The outcome was decisive and left little chance for escape. The Battle of Saho River in 1241 illustrates the devastating effects of this approach. The Hungarian army, renowned for its cavalry, believed it had forced the Mongols to retreat after a frontal assault across the river. Emboldened, the Hungarians crossed in pursuit. only to be caught as Subete's hidden forces attacked from behind. The Hungarian lines collapsed in confusion, encircled and unable to regroup. The Mongols achieved total victory, not by brute force alone, but by turning their enemy's confidence into a fatal vulnerability. The psychological impact was profound. Armies that once relied on numbers and visible strength began to question every Mongol withdrawal. Was it a genuine retreat or a trap waiting to snap shut? This uncertainty eroded morale and made commanders hesitate at critical moments. The Mongols' use of deception forced opponents to second-guess their own instincts, paralyzing them with doubt. To make their traps even more effective, the Mongols sometimes used the open-the-end tactic. During an encirclement, they would leave a deliberate gap in their lines, creating the illusion of a possible escape. In reality, this was a calculated lure. Hidden detachments waited just beyond the opening, ready to strike fleeing soldiers from both sides. The result was a complete and inescapable destruction of the enemy force. On the ground, the effect was chaos. Defenders who thought they had broken through found themselves ambushed from new directions. The landscape itself became part of the Mongol arsenal, with every clearing and pathway chosen for maximum advantage. In the confusion, lines disintegrated and escape routes vanished. The Mongols' discipline and preparation ensured that every option had been anticipated, every reaction measured. In that final moment, you realized retreat was the deadliest trap of all. The Mongols' tactics left no room for error, no chance for improvisation, and no real hope for escape. Their blend of psychological warfare, deception, and precise coordination overwhelmed even the strongest defenses. Survival against the Mongols was almost impossible. Their unmatched combination of strategy, organization, and brutality overwhelmed even the strongest defenses. What set the Mongols apart were three core tactics: their unmatched mobility, covering up to 120 kilometers a day, relentless arrow storms that shattered defenses from a distance, and the feigned retreat that drew enemies into fatal traps. As historian S.R. Turnbull noted, Mongol warfare was an almost perfect blend of firepower, shock tactics, and mobility. Their approach shaped the future of military strategy. Leaders from Napoleon to Patton studied how the Mongols used speed, discipline, and psychological warfare to rewrite the rules of conquest. Which tactics surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments, and subscribe for more deep dives into history's deadliest forces.